figure out.
Chris, are you there?
It's
Oh.
not, but
Okay,
it's like trying.
so we've got this executive session to deal with the CEO goals. Do we want to move that up?
Chris is, not on the,
But he will be on the meeting.
Okay.
And, but he has to attend there.
Okay.
So if we move this up, then he can
Okay.
participate in that. I think the board education is relatively less important. So I'd recommend we move that down. So it's really up to you. What you vote would be your, you need to make a motion to change the agenda.
okay, so I'm the one here, besides you.
Yeah,
Okay,
wait,
then I say we move it down, move the old business down and move the executive session up. Assuming that Chris comes in.
okay, is that is that a motion? And if so, is there any objection? Right, so we'll do that. Did you review the minutes of our last meeting?
Did, all right.
Okay, is there any objection? If not, we'll accept those. Is there any member of the public that would like to address this committee? Okay, there's no members of the public online, no members of the public here. Then let's get right into new business. So we need Deb for the.
Chris is on.
We need Deb for the A3 board engagement. She's gonna do that. So maybe we should move on to the CEO goals.
And Chris is on.
Good. So, Joe, who do you recommend we have present for the executive session?
The goal is super high level, so I mean, I think everyone's doing that.
Okay, then we need a motion to move into executive session. Is that what that come from me to you, Chris, or?
Yeah, I can do that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Okay. I move that we recess into executive session to discuss matters that by law are not subject to public disclosure, specifically the CEO goals and performance criteria.
Thank you. Any objection? There's a second.
Second.
Okay, with no objection. So, yeah. Is there a motion? Would you like to amend your motion?
I make my motion that Joe take this to the full board and that we do the metrics in the finance thing.
Chris?
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, is there an objection? All right. Good, let's, with the time we have left here before Chris has to go, let's consider this A3 engagement.
Wanted that first.
There's something before that, right?
Yeah, that was his, want to speak on that first?
No, we wanted to move that later because Chris is gonna have to go.
Yeah, I apologize. I got double booked today.
You might have this a little bit bigger.
Deb, do you want to help us out here?
I'd love to. So what really needs to happen is to, for us as a board to flesh out the actions that we want to take in to achieve this goal. And
Can you just direct us right to the goal? What is the goal?
Trying to community engagement efforts of the
Yeah.
board members.
Yeah.
Okay.
see on the bottom.
Okay, there we
The
go.
bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, and I apologize. I have the list that I put together of suggestions on here, and it is dead. So that I unplugged it and apparently it didn't charge from a charger, but go from memory. So one set of activities is to participate in specifically Bartlett-related events and activities, like the presence at the Fireweed Awards and other award ceremonies. Present at events, that doesn't mean that every single board member has to come to every single activity, but presence at board foundation activities. There are also presence at activities that Bartlett sponsors in the community. Case in point would have been the Maritime Festival booth that Bartlett had, in which they gave away camp chairs and they had a presence. The board could come, go from and have a presence at events like that. That's the first level. We have discussed this in the past, but it's not something that we would want to inundate senior leadership or the staff with, but periodically participate in rounding, or have an event or a coffee or whatever you want to call it, with the staff that is to introduce, this is your board, just in the lobby somewhere, this is your board, for as many folks as many of the staff as possible, to put a face to the people that are helping make decisions and guiding the strategic direction of the hospital. I had a couple more, but I cannot remember. I'll have to.
How many board members do we have? Cover Joe, board.
Yeah.
Make up a joke.
Yeah. So those are, I'm throwing, this is supposed to be a board A3. So I'm throwing those out as potential follow-up actions for input, addition to. Yes.
If you'd like me to, I'd be happy to give an overview of what the hospital's current community engagement plan is, and if that helps inform the direction that the board would maybe like to consider, happy to do that as well.
Well, there's two things here. There's the hospital engaging with the community. That's one thing. But there's also the board getting more engaged. And that's another thing. If you want to very briefly tell us about the hospital's engagement.
Absolutely.
That's good.
I thought it might help shed light on your A3 because I think there's a framework that you could build upon. So this is my suggestion.
Okay, cool.
We have a separate A3 as an organization that talks about community engagement because it is a strategic priority that the board has approved as a part of this year's plan. So I have a separate A3 that looks very similar to this, specific for the hospital and operations and staff expectations, and how we can be more involved in the community. A part of that is what we call a community engagement plan. A component of that plan is just what Deb alluded to, is an identification, a list of like calendar events that we have deemed appropriate for staff to jump in and participate in. It could be that you are going to a hospital sponsored event. It could be an event that we're running. It could be a community event that we have a booth at. It could be Fireweed. We've identified what we believe those fall under the kind of public facing events they are considered in scope. And then we want to make sure that we get that out to staff and incentivize and encourage them to participate in those events. That's one component of the plan. The plan also covers sponsorships and other components that the hospital may choose to invest in. But my thought process in sharing that, or recommendation might be maybe as a step one for the board, is we can share this calendar, so to speak, with you all. And maybe as a part of your monthly board packet or admin report, there's just a section that talks about upcoming, public facing hospital events And you all could choose like, hey, I have the time, I'd like to go to a couple of these. And then we make sure in our countermeasures that we're giving you the components to, attend those, whether it's a, formalized name tag or something like that. And then we help build you a, say, kind of a very basic like attendance tracking sheet to start with. And then this board could figure out what are our attendance expectations? How many events would we like board members to go to each quarter? But I thought that might be a way to help kind of feed you a starting calendar, so to speak, is the hospital has already identified a calendar of what is upcoming for us that I think would also be appropriate for the board. I'll stop there.
Yeah, speaking for myself, I don't feel like I'm doing a particularly good job at this, but I'm also hesitant to just show up. I mean, I'm not going to just show up in the emergency room and say, let me, watch you deal with somebody's myocardial infarction. I mean, I need. I know.
It's not what we're seeing.
Yeah, of course not. But I need to, it would help me be better if this would be some kind of invitations.
Yes.
Yeah,
We could work with any other to have that.
Yeah. Dorothy?
Sure. I actually really love Erin's idea, and I kind of feel like I have not known about things that are available. Like the one thing that I did know that was available, I got an invitation to, I went to, but didn't know what it was about. So I kind of feel like putting the calendar on the board that like, just like we do, these are the meetings for the calendars. These are the things that are going on for the next month, so that we can say, hey, we're doing the fire week awards this time. It'd be kind of nice to have board representation and we can like volunteer to do something like that. And then I suggest that we do like maybe a latte with the board and Joe. It's like a fancier one or something like that, right? And maybe we have like a little neon bright yellow shirt that is like board member, so that you're like, why are you there? And something like that. And then like people can kind of come. Unfortunately, you don't get the night shift people unless you do it really early in the morning. But like something that's reasonable, maybe it's an evening, so that like you get your latte at 7 o'clock at night, so that way it's not like 6:45 in the morning, whatever, but like something like that. And if we have 9 of those, then maybe one board member can sort of say, I can commit to that one if we wanted to do something like that, so that you can sort of say, as board members, we are representative, or maybe a little bit of a email that sort of says, meet your board member, and each person has a little tiny bio of like, I have lived in the community forever, and like, this is kind of what my important thing to me as a board member is, so come meet me if you really like this.
That would be really nice. We issue a monthly Bartlett Buzz employee newsletter. The board is featured. We highlight your actions that you take for staff. And when we have new high-level administrators or leaders, we do mini profiles on them. I think it'd be wonderful to include those and rotate through the board if members would like to. So,
Because I don't think like I've ever, I know who the physician board members are as a physician, like on med staff, but I've never known anybody else. So maybe that would be kind of nice to sort of say, Jeannie's had all this experience in like, hospital administration, various different agencies. Like that's kind of great to know.
So there's 2 things that we're talking about here. We're talking about engagement with the hospital staff. That's something I don't think I'm very good at either. But that's one thing. But we're also, this A3, I think, was talking about engagement with the public.
But when Erin tells us what those public events are, I think that since we don't know what they are, or I don't know what they are, then maybe we can be more proactive.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a calendar going in this thing that I'm using, the word invitation to shorten it for several things. I think that's what would help me be better engaged both with the public and with the hospital.
I think we can do both. When I briefly chatted with Anita about it, she suggested, making space somewhere in the board packet and just making sure that invitations are issued to you. And then we're letting you know about staff, events that are appropriate and then community related events. And then you would get an invitation if you're able to come. Excellent. And then we just build an attendance tracking mechanism for the board to meet whatever expectation you set.
This sounds great, but part of what we're talking about here are some new things. Like I would love to go around when I'm invited, and I don't want to just show up and be a guest. So
Correct. It would be an invitation issue. Yes. So when we set aside time to round the trustees.
So my apologies, I have to drop. I've got a couple of questions about this that I'm not, I don't have time to ask right now. Would it be appropriate to just send those to Hal?
Or to Aaron. Yeah, one should CC Aaron.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Chris, so, are you still there? Have you gone? Okay.
Did you have something you want to
I
say?
was just gonna say, yeah, it'd be great. As the author, if I could be CC'd as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that what you'd like to make people see?
Judy just had a. Go ahead. I really like the idea of some kind of Bartlett board identification. So that if I offer this of who are you and why are you here?
Bartlett.
Yeah, a tag or a Bartlett vest or a T-shirt or something to identify. Otherwise I show up and I'm like, great, I'm glad I'm here, but nobody knows I'm a board member.
But maybe if you have that little like, Jeannie is the new board member of the month, and like, then people like know
Yeah.
who you are.
But I was thinking of the community events. If we're representing Bartlett at a community event as a board member,
Yes,
something that identifies us as a.
Yes, yeah, suggestion.
Oh, perfect.
yes, I agree. Wearing these in the community is just awkward, and I'm not a medical professional, so I don't want to give the illusion that I
Exactly.
help in the case of an emergency. One suggestion I brought that was on the A3 is just, I think that the board members should have very professional looking name tags that you can wear to public events that helps make that identification. So there is a visual introduction there for someone to engage with. This was one from my past organization when I worked for the State Department of Education here. They're very formalized name tags. All of our board members have them. All of us as executives have them. And it was something that we put on for every board meeting because they were heavily attended by the public in any community space we were in. It's just one example of, I think, a modest monetary investment we could make that would be very helpful to you. So also love swag. So
But great yellow ones.
They should be different. They should be
Differently identifiable.
Nice yellow.
Like volunteer colors, you know, like you're you're volunteer people.
Special board swag. Like it.
I've got a thought too that I had before and it didn't get, I don't think anybody was very happy with it, but I'll bring it up one more time and get shot down again. I was thinking when we're talking about engagement previously, that we need to, or last year, we need to think of some new things to do to get engaged. And I had recommended that the board, not the staff, but the board, have a lunch invitation at some interval with Juneau Press, with, I'm trying to think of what her name is, the reporter for KTOO and Mark Sabatini and, you know, a few others. Now we've got the Juneau Independent. And, yeah, I guess I'll recommend one more time that the board have a lunch, maybe even just 2 a year, and engage Juneau Press.
Personally, I would say no to that. I don't want to be directly talking to the press about Bartlett. That's like a minefield. That's the last thing I want as a board member. My goal is to never have my name on the front page. Unless it's like something
Yeah, I know.
really positive.
Yeah, I would hope we would not
But,
speak for the hospital, but just engage with.
but if we speak to the media, we're speaking for them.
we're speaking for them. Lisa, did you have something to say?
I don't want to meet with the press either.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's a risk.
I think it's very risky.
Could the chief of the board be the person who could do that? Because in that way, it's more like, it's a higher level and the chief of the board, like, kind of knows what to say and not to say, opposed to like, you know, new peon like me, that's like, oh, we're taking on your radio
I
now.
would just, what are we trying to achieve with that? 'Cause Aaron does submit information to the press, we have it to go forward, and so all the positive stuff gets fed to them continuously. To my concern.
I mean, the press is
they're
looking
gonna
for a
be looking
story,
negative
and
Stuff, looking for sound bites
I don't know,
attached to stuff that's not really.
I think
what
it's
we want.
risky.
So maybe it's a way for the press to be able to get to hear what the press is saying, like maybe we don't know what the pulse of the community is. And maybe is that how you mean it, that like
Oh,
maybe
yes.
that we get to hear or someone gets to hear what is being thought of.
And I'm also thinking that we would have some discipline, that we wouldn't just go throwing out some mighty sound bites that are gonna make it. But anyway,
You know, an idea that Petersburg Hospital did a few years ago, I think they do it continuously. They have these things, they call them community cafes. I actually got some funding from the state to do them, and it was a community event where media were invited, everybody was invited, and it was at a public place, like the library. And there was a topic each time, where there was some topic. So there was a short presentation, and then there was community dialogue, and board members were encouraged to attend, hospital leadership, and they were great. They really helped the hospital move forward. And so that might be kind of somewhere in between where what you're trying to get at is dialogue.
and we did that, something similar to that, when we had these horrible decisions we had to make about what's gonna close.
Right.
We had meetings, people still come up to me in food land.
They did these not because something horrible was happening, but they did them on like once per quarter.
Were they more educational?
They were educational for the community on whatever issues are going on. So,
Topics.
It could have like behavioral health was one time. What are the behavioral health services offered? What are the needs in the community? A lot of it was around a new facility. What are the challenges with our existing facility? So it was whatever was kind of top of mind. And Phil Offset, I'm sure
Yeah, we could.
could get that information, and they were actually recognized nationally.
I
for
would
this community.
like to see us do something, maybe my suggestion is gonna work. I'd like to see us do something to engage, something new. I'd like to have something new, and I don't want to just dump a bunch of stuff on staff.
I like Jeannie's idea to maybe do it like once, like twice a year, something like very achievable, right? And then mental health is like a really nice, thing that always somebody will do. And then I always lean towards medicine stuff, which is not necessarily what we want to do, but like mental health is great because everyone's got stuff, and if we could put something together that includes the resources in town so that they're invited and just do like a short presentation and then like talk to your board members and senior leadership, that would be good. If we're trying to make this more board or senior, like we're trying to get more board and not senior leadership, is that the thought?
Not necessarily. I mean, some of the events that we're talking about, like a community cafe, a lot of the questions, the purpose of any not-for-profit board is strategic, not operational. So if we get questions from the participants that are a deep dive into, or even a shallow dive into the operational side, what happens if this? We may, unless it's one of the physicians maybe, or one of the nurses that on the board, we may not be able to answer that question. So I guess there are times when it might be appropriate for just a board member to be there, but for,
Include the senior leadership.
yes.
So one of
the appropriate person in the case of behavioral health, maybe we would bring someone from the behavioral health side along, not just the senior leadership, although I'm confident that our senior leadership can answer all this kind of thing.
So it seems like we have some goals on this A3, and then there were some follow-up actions. How are we doing in terms of like, do we need to come up with like additional stuff to flesh out this A3?
Well, yeah, I think what we need is we're gonna create a list of attendable events. So what you guys can kind of select from. So the question is like, what do we expect for attendance from each of the board members? Is it to attend X amount, X percent? Like, what do you guys see is the goal for the board members for these community events?
So we have 9 lattes and each person attends one.
Well, that could be part of it, but it could also be like, hey, the hospital does a lunch twice a year. The goal is that you attend at least one of those in some format, or we do quarterly fire weeks. It's the goal that you attend one of those.
I have a suggestion here.
Or a total number of cumulative events, because I know you guys have busy schedules that might not work out. I think that's what we're looking for. And I guess I defer to the team.
Yeah, we give you a pretty robust list and we have 3 or 4 things every month, so to speak, and so.
I have a suggestion, since we've used up a lot of time already, and it looks like part of our task here was to come up with attendance standards. I don't think I'm ready to commit to specific numbers now. Let's see what happens. This is just my suggestion for comment and criticism. Why don't we just get this list of invitations together? Let's track what kind of participation we have, and then next year, let's get to some specific.
Baseline it this year.
Yeah.
And look for goals next year.
That's my suggestion.
I do suggest that on the calendar that you and Anita are trying to figure out what is there, let's just put it on the calendar where all the board meetings are too. Like, so we have a calendar each month in our packet that says this is where the meetings are, could be like, these are the events that are ongoing in the community or that Bartlett has like awards, something like that. So that way it's in one page and you can be like, oh, okay.
Let me chat with Anita. So we done as a public facing, those are public meetings. And some of these would not be public.
Okay.
So our thought was having the second calendar in the admin report.
Okay.
That would be the non-public, that'd be,
Okay.
Maybe we'll pick up with that as you adopt the board calendar every month, so you're sort of adopting.
yeah, you know, it's not us.
Yeah, so
It's like, could you just do a nice little sidebar?
We can get a piece of paper.
That sounds good. right?
I see your goal.
I agree with Dorothy. We can't have too many two calendars.
Yes, because I'm not looking at my board email anymore because I can't get it on my Safari, so I have to like log on to something different. So like now I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta like go look it up.
We'll post on that too, Chris. The second thing is, the board only does a month at a time, and I imagine you guys want to know what events are going 3 to 4 months out. So plan your lives accordingly.
And it would be nice to have some, maybe the first year, it's just like, here's the events, let's go and track how we go. But it'd be nice, like if I knew no board members were gonna go to an event, then I could try and prioritize that one. If 6 people are already going to a different, one, be like, great, you guys got this.
Yeah, we can have something that goes in the packet, and then a listing on SharePoint where people are signing up for attendance.
If people want to, yeah, I mean,
And then we can track that, use that as to track that attendance.
to track the attendance. Maybe the first year, we're just trying to share the information, and see who shows up.
Okay, we're already over now. I'm thinking we've reached consensus on this, and and it sounds to me like staff is going to take some action. And,
This meeting is scheduled till about.
okay, we've got one more item. We've got 15 minutes. Well, a little bit, 15 minutes. So, and that's the board education. So I didn't want to go right up to 11 and not take that out. So Chad has provided us some information here. I thought it didn't totally clear things up for me, but I got the sense workforce challenges in healthcare wasn't going to be the top winner. Finance, reimbursement, risk management, these were more or less the top. Joe, do you have any suggestions for what we might do with these results?
So my suggestion is we implement a bi-monthly, every other month education period with the board. We're using this as the basis for the next 12 to 18 months. We work these in. And I'm gonna start pulling the education plan together. And I come back and present to this committee. So with this information, I've already took steps to secure an educator for finance reimbursement. We've been talking to Stroudwater, or I've been talking to Stroudwater. Come to the top. And then we get to intermix that with A3 presentation. So you're getting some operational education as well as higher level education.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
So this hasn't happened, like we haven't.
We just finished a survey last month. It's been presented. Getting educators lined up, creating education takes a little bit more time. So I'm looking at having an educator in June and then one in August. I think 3 is in effect.
So in the past, this committee recommended very specific things. So this is a little bit different to just kind of review this and then just to see what management recommends.
But this is based on like the people's input of what we wanted to see, right?
Yeah, the board.
There was an open-ended question for comment if there's additional information you guys wanted that double education. I believe there were 3 comments, but they were.
The topic looks good. Alternative payment models for the future, such as value-based payment, patient-centered medical care, medical home models, AHED model and other models for hospital beds. And then how affiliations and partnership with larger system is actually is, those were the open-ended. I don't know how to interpret.
Well, the second one goes back into finance reimbursement. Those are just models that ties into one of the higher level sections.
Yeah.
I think the third one ties into kind of, um, industry trends, I think it ties in the ways that you see the healthcare industry seems to go through cycles where there's lots of consolidation and mergers. And then as, payment methodologies change, those flex up and down. That we can talk about that.
When I first got on the board funded a very expensive trip to Colorado Springs with the Governance Institute. And they were very extravagant, very expensive meetings. First, I didn't think they were worth it. But then we did send the board, or some board members to Anchorage for some meetings. Is there any thought in terms of outside travel for the board?
Yeah, there is some discussion about that, but it obviously goes back to the financial situation of the hospital. Me and Dan have talked about that. There's some regional stuff that we can go to that's more cost favorable compared to what you guys used to go to, which would be the National Rural Health. So National Rural AHA's national conference is a good one. But I would say, as we went through the board training last month, industry standard is bi-monthly or monthly educational periods, and not so much these big events. I'm not saying there's not value to them, but we have to make sure it makes sense. Because some hospitals may show up with, some of them had all of the board members. They walked in with 18 people. Cost gets pretty, right?
Yeah. The event I went to in Girdwood, I thought I got more out of that than any of the governance institute meetings.
Yeah. And there's specific education we send to like credentialing. There's this annual training that the hospital association puts on and try to get that committee member up to that.
Yeah, I went to,
That's the one you went
yeah, I
to.
went to
Is this the order in which we're doing stuff or just?
That's gonna be how I'm trying to assign the priority, but I mean, it might depend on who comes available for education to you. We have people reach out. So some of this will be internal, some will be external, depending on what's available as we work through this.
when you say internal, you mean head staff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cybersecurity will be presented at Finance and Quality this month. That will be internal. Chris and Joe will be presenting their 8th grade presentation related to some events that have happened over the last year, and they'll be talking about our internal systems and process. They did a really excellent presentation. So that will be happening at the quality.
Is that our education for the board or no?
Well, it will come back to the full board and education. That's just, it'll be introduced there. And he's probably gonna be in front of you guys in August. Okay.
So in summary then, even though in the past, this committee made very specific recommendations, I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to just defer to management. So I offer that for comment and criticism. So,
This one's good. There was something you told me when I initially became a board member about like an education that was online about the rural transformation thing. That was a year or something. I don't remember what that was.
That is the board education. I think Chris, Lisa, and Hal maybe are going through that.
well, I eventually I bound up, but yeah, I was going through that.
I don't know anything about it, and it was
As
too
you
much.
want governance board education, and that would be something that we would look at for year 2 after you've had a year to get.
Perfect, okay, good, because I kind of didn't pay attention, because I was like, that sounds too much.
We've got varying responses as to how good it is, I think.
Okay.
So we had to,
Yeah, I would think you would probably find it very redundant, things you would know.
But I don't know like too much about anyway, I just want to make sure that like, that you had mentioned some things and I kind of thought it was overwhelming and I was like, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
that was part of the one.
But if you tell me again, I would love that.
Next fall, as we get
Yes.
the first cohort kind of thrown, it'd be nice to get them to come back and present and talk about what they felt of it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any, let's see, do we have on our agenda, there's supposed to be committee comments or? Well, yeah, let's ask, are there any comments from committee members that are ready? Or any other board members or any members of staff? Any thoughts?
Excited to learn. Let's go with it.
Okay, then I think we've reached the end of our agenda.
Deb's, oh, we already did the board meeting, okay. Excellent.
Consider ourselves adjourned.
I have to say something.
Okay.
I would like us to adjourn.
Let's do, by all means.
Thank you.